All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time. I'm actually out in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful day outside here. As I always say at the start of a webinar, let's exercise our social skills and let's show some patience. I have the list of participants up on my top screen. I'm just watching people still shuffling in, so we'll get started in just a minute or two. I hope everybody's day is going great thus far, wherever you guys may be from. All right. I appreciate your patience. We'll just give them one more minute. Still a few people coming in. All right, yeah, I think that is patience enough. Welcome to all of you. I'm super excited to be here. I'm actually going to start calling. This is webinar 5 now that we've been starting over the last several weeks. So I'm going to start to call this our brand new social skills webinar series, episode 5. One of the biggest reasons why I'm really excited is that this is the largest turnout yet. We have participants joining us this very second from all around the world. And even in just the past week, I've had email correspondence from one of the participants that's on with us now was from Rwanda. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I had email correspondence with another that was from Croatia who's joining us. So it's nice that people from around the world are also interested in social skills and in helping out these ADHD kids. This is, like I said, this is the largest number of participants for episode 5, webinar 5 that we've ever had. And I'm humbled and I appreciate you all attending. Hey, good afternoon, Anita. I've opened up, this is a new one for me because I'm not the most computer literate of people. I've opened up the Q&A. So on the bottom of your screen should be a Q&A. I love interaction and I love questions. Please don't be shy like Anita, who's wishing me good afternoon. I really appreciate that. We're expecting hundreds of participants today. We're already over 100. So we're expecting hundreds of participants today. I probably won't be able to get to all of your questions, but I'm going to do my very best. Again, don't be shy. Jump in if there's something that you want to add. For those of you that have heard me present before, and I know some of you do, I always like to start a webinar with a personal story from my life to really illustrate a real life example of what the webinar topic is all about. So bear with me on this one. I'm going to go back to when I was about 10 years old. Can we go back to watch other sessions? Absolutely. The sessions are right now on YouTube. The sessions are going to be on the website, socialskillcenter.com. And yes, the information, thank you, Roxana, and thank you, Tanya. The information will be available online to refer back to. In fact, Jennifer, who's helping me with this, is going to send everybody who's participating today an email link this afternoon so you can access this webinar and review it and watch it again. But let me take you back to my story. I was probably about 10 years old. I grew up in the suburbs of Buffalo, New York. I went to a public school and maybe 9 or 10. And when you're a little kid, you have no idea what ADD or ADHD, and I'm going to use ADD and ADHD interchangeably today, but I had no idea what ADD or ADHD was. We welcomed a new kid in the class. I think it was fifth grade. I'll never forget his name. There's one of these people in life that you'll just never forget. His name was Jason. And this dude he was the biggest class clown that I have ever seen. So if you'll all do me a favor, if you all can close your eyes, don't do this if you're driving, got to be safe. If you all can close your eyes and just maybe go back to elementary school, picture yourself being in class with a Jason. And he was the biggest class clown that I had ever seen. He would say funny jokes out loud, right in the middle of the class, even while the teacher was teaching. He would never raise his hand, just shout things out. He couldn't sit still. His legs would be bouncing. He'd be looking all around. This was back in the day with these sorts of pencil sharpeners. He probably got up 4 times, 5 times an hour to sharpen his pencil. I remember him getting sent down to physically removed from class and getting sent down to the principal's office on several occasions. And an observer in the classroom would have described him as wild. They would have described him as unmotivated to learn, I don't care attitude. He was your classic class clown. The straw that broke the camel's back with the teacher was, this is a true story, one day the teacher left to go around the office or whatever, can't remember. Jason proceeded to take 3 desks, push them together in a line, walk out the hallway, and then come running in the classroom and basically Evel Knievel'd over all 3 desks. I actually think he landed it. I don't think he bailed. But clearly, a classic example of ADHD. He would now be known as ADHD, and in parentheses, the hyperactive and impulsive type. But this is what this webinar is about, because here's the problem. This is what happened with Jason. Everybody stayed away from him. He may have had 1 or 2 kids who were more on the silly, goofy side that may have kind of, hung out with him a little bit. But I'll tell you, when we went to art class and sat at the tables and started painting, you didn't want to sit at his table because he'd be flinging paint like this at you. You'd go home with paint all over you. At lunch, everyone sat at the other end of the table because there was a great likelihood of a food fight if you sat next to him. And certainly at recess, he was the guy that you shied away from because where he went, there was drama and you didn't want to get in trouble. So it really impacted him socially. He just wasn't able to make a whole lot of strong social connections. It's sad. And again, this is back around probably 1979, 1980. So we didn't really have the tools, the skills, the coping strategies in order to help the Jasons of the world out. Did you all know that there's over 6 million kids diagnosed with ADHD in the United States? Some present very much like Jason, and some actually present very, very differently. But without a doubt, most of these kids are going to face some type of social challenges during their childhood and unfortunately beyond, unless we can help them. Let me take a quick moment and introduce myself. I'm Dr. Christopher Haley. I'm the owner of a private practice called the Social Skills Center. And I repeat this every webinar, and I'm going to continue to repeat this saying every webinar because this sums me up, and it sums up the practice in a nutshell. I'm a huge believer and have always been. I'm a huge believer that social skills are essential life skills, in that if you are a really good communicator, if you are an exceptional listener, if you know how to network, if you can connect with people in life, I believe you're going to be successful. And I regularly say, and sometimes jaws drop on this one, I regularly say that social skills correlate higher with success, with an individual's success than school grades. Meaning I know straight C students that were C students back in the day, and they're really good at connecting with others, out in the real world. They're very successful people. I know other people that were straight A students that because they struggle socially, they've had a harder time working their way up the ranks of life. So, whether you graduated from high school or you graduated from Harvard, if you possess the skills to easily connect with people and maintain those solid relationships, I believe you're going to be successful. For the last 21 years, since I've been owner of, I actually own 2 different practices, but with the Social Skills Center, I've been for 21 years teaching these essential life skills. I've been doing it in an individual or one-on-one format, and I actually do 12 different social skills groups every week for children, adolescents, and adults. And our group program has been so strong and so solid, for the last couple decades that when coronavirus hit in the pandemic came to the United States, where things started shutting down. I guess it was maybe mid-March or so. All psychologists, all healthcare professionals, they turned to telehealth in order to help treat their clients and patients. So my associate Scott Miller and I started facilitating all these groups via the internet on our HIPAA compliant Zoom here, and we've had such success with our individual program and our group program that we decided to expand our services, and now we're worldwide. Now anyone across the world who's interested in gaining social skills can come to the Social Skills Center and gain these essential techniques. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Let's get started. Oh, I think someone raised their hand. Deborah, we're the precious ones. Deborah says we're the precious ones. Same or different? Absolutely. All right, let me go to the slides. Okay, guys. So the first thing we need to do is get a better understanding. Why do kids with ADHD have a tendency to struggle socially? Well, all you have to do is look at the symptoms of ADHD. First and foremost, and you all know this is an obvious one. Kids with ADHD have a difficulty time paying attention. So what does that mean? It means they miss social cues, both verbal, talking cues, and even more importantly, they miss nonverbal social cues. Now the studies vary, but some say like 70% of social cues are given nonverbal. And these social cues can happen so quickly. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple of examples, and I'll go off script here for a second. Back in my doctoral training, I was given by one of my supervisors a deck of cards. Not playing cards. They look like playing cards, but when you opened it up, each card had a picture of a face and of a real person making a face. And under it would say the feeling, for example, happy or scared or surprised. But I found the cards to teach these nonverbal social cues, I found the cards to be ineffective because no one holds a scared face indefinitely. It happens quickly. So we have to teach the kids with ADHD that miss this stuff, because these cues happen quickly. You have to teach them to pick up on that. I have 4 teenagers here in my house. Trust me, I'll get the eye roll every now and again, and I'll have just a millisecond to pick up on that when one of my kids is annoyed or frustrated with me. The ADHD kids, they also don't know when it's appropriate to enter a conversation or how to go about joining a group. And an example of this just happened last night. And in one of my social skills groups, maybe my 5 or 6 o'clock group, I had already started, I think it was my 6 o'clock group last night, I had already started the group. And there was a child who had an ADHD diagnosis, was running late, and maybe about 10 minutes into the group, all of a sudden on the screen, boop, he comes up. But rather than wait and get a feel for what was going on in the conversation to jump in appropriately, it's, hey everybody, sorry I'm late, and look at these tadpoles that I caught. I'm like, hey, wait a second, you're right in the middle of a conversation. So other things that happen with difficulty paying attention is a child at school with ADHD could be talking to another child, and they may lose interest in that conversation because they're not paying attention, or they drift off and they just kind of turn around and walk away, leaving the other child hanging. And And really what makes it especially difficult to learn the social skills when you have ADHD is it's much tougher to learn through modeling. As you're all aware, kids learn a lot through modeling parents. Kids learn a lot through modeling teachers or other people in the community. And if you have a hard time paying attention to what's going on with those that are trying to teach you or be a model, you're going to miss out on those different skills. So difficulty paying attention, really big reason. All right, one sec, guys. Let me just go over to the questions. Deborah is asking if the previous workshops were the same as this one. No, they are all different, Deborah. The focus, they're all socially skills based, but we're doing a wide variety of different ones. Hey, Melissa, I have parents of a preschooler who have taken him for OT services to help with their ADHD. Is this the best service to support an ADD child? Melissa, that really all depends on the presenting concerns. I think OTs provide a wonderful service, especially if there's more sensory things going on. So that can be, it can definitely be a piece of it, absolutely. And Anita, 4 teenagers, do they follow my son, the backpack kid? That's actually very funny. Yes. Let me get back to the list. I appreciate your comments, guys. I'll often look over there and just chuckle. It's funny. The ADHD kids, number 2, they have challenges with expressive language. And this goes without saying, a lot of the kids that have ADHD constantly talking. Not unusual for a kid to be, we call them 95-5 kids that are talking 95% of the time and maybe giving 5% of the time for you to get in a word edgewise. And the ADHD kids, they also struggle with staying on topic. So what that means is they'll talk about one thing. They may have an appropriate segue in their mind, but they'll go over here and then they'll kind of go back, and it leaves the listener thinking, huh? What are you saying? These kids often struggle with listening skills, so it's harder to coach them on appropriate social interactions because they have difficulty hearing what you're saying. They miss important words in a conversation or only hear bits and pieces of things. They may be internally focused on something and just not hearing the person talking. That happens all the time. Although I will say this about a lot of I've treated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ADHD kids, maybe even 1,000 over the last 27 years that I've been practicing, but the exact opposite can happen too, where an ADHD kid might be looking, I have one of my windows here that I'm looking out at this beautiful day, and I might be distracted by a squirrel or something outside, but all the while I've heard exactly what you're saying, and I can repeat back to you what you said. So I see that happen as well. Often kids with ADHD, they may be impatient, they may be impulsive, certainly interrupting or intruding on other people's conversations. There may be a neighborhood game with their peers where they're coming up with new rules, and the ADHD child says, "No, skip the rules, let's just go play, let's go play." And then again, leave the other kids saying, "No, we wanna get the rules down first." They may have difficulty settling. They may be restless, much like the Jason example that I used when we started. There's certainly a hyperactive piece where there's leg bouncing and just not being able to settle in 4th or 5th grade, or if the teacher was reading a book, the Jasons of the world, really hard to sit still for periods of time. And again, what happens here leads to them distracting others. And finally, easily frustrated. Every day of my life, I deal with a frustration of some sort or another. So if you struggle with frustration tolerance when you're younger and you don't learn that skill, you're going to have a hard time when you get to be an adult. And the frustrations I'm talking about are when something doesn't go the child's way and you get that sort of response. You get frustrated at the video game and throwing the remote control, anger management issues. And when this happens around your peers, what do the peers do? The peers, they stay away. They don't want to interact with you. when a child gets upset in a classroom or has some sort of frustration episode, and unfortunately the other kids go home and tell their parent, and the parents say, hey, stay away from him. He's a bad kid. And so, given these issues, it's not hard to see why the ADHD kids have a tendency to struggle socially. I'm going to go to the next slide in 1 second. Someone's got their hand up, and I'm just going to hit that and see what we have. Okay, let's see. Hey, Sheila, you had your hand up. If you have a question, jump right in. Okay, Stuart has a question. All right. I just have to figure out how to do it. Okay. Oh, now with this one, this is actually a feature I haven't used before. It's going to allow you to talk. So Sheila, I'm going to hit allow to talk, and feel free to jump in with your question if you feel comfortable doing so. Sheila, are you with us?
I am, but I don't have a question. That was a mistake. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Let's see. Stuart, I'm going to get you up. Hey, Stuart, you're on.
Yeah, sorry. There was a mistake as well. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. If you guys feel like raising your hands, by all means, go ahead. Let me see if I can lower it. Lower the hand. Okay. Jacqueline's got a question. Come on in, Jacqueline. Let me hit that. Go ahead.
What happens, you were saying about these little anger episodes.
Yes.
What happens if you see them present at home, like during, like you said, using the Xbox or,
Yes.
but you don't see them present at school? Like the teachers say, oh, your son is marvelous and all these things, but at home you see those present actions.
It's funny that you would bring that up, because I know many kids that are very much like that. There are certain kids, Jacqueline, that in public settings, they will do whatever it takes in order to present a good front. Maybe they're anxious about getting in trouble. Maybe they just want to put on a good front. But at home, in the comfort of their own home, with those that love and care about them unconditionally, they have a tendency to do this. It's actually, I see this a lot with the Fortniters. And I see a lot of patients that are playing Fortnite where these sorts of things happen. My recommendation, again, that would be a whole nother webinar, but I have a whole strategy of teaching frustration tolerance to kids at home. If you listen, in one of the previous webinars, if you go to YouTube and you search the Social Skills Center, in one of the previous webinars, I talked specifically about how to help kids with frustration tolerance. Okay?
Okay.
Yep. So visit that one, and it'll surprise you. That my recommendation there is you frustrate kids on purpose with a hierarchy. And if you go and listen to that webinar, I will teach you exactly how to do that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for jumping in. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let me see. Amy has 4 teenagers, all boys. Lahanda, are ADHD kids more drawn to video games and such? I think in 2020, I don't think I ever would have answered it this way. In 2020, I think almost all kids are drawn to video games, but especially ADHD kids, Lahanda, they are seeking stimulation. And you'll hear me say this in a little bit. These video games are created on purpose to suck these kids in and get them to spend as many hours, and therefore more dollars, get them to spend as many hours on these video games as possible. The ADHD brain searches for stimulation. And so that's why the kids are drawn to it. Deborah, is there any way to see the other questions? Boy, let's see. I don't think so, Deborah. I apologize for that. Tanya, how often do you think kids are diagnosed with ADHD when it's actually a response to trauma? Yeah, I think ADHD, unfortunately, is misdiagnosed all the time. However, I think it was more misdiagnosed back when the Ritalins and the medicine, that sort of medicine, the stimulants came out back in the 90s. And I think the psychologists and those that diagnose are doing a much better job. We now have much more objective computerized tests to really get in to filter out, is this executive dysfunction, which we'll talk about in a second, versus a trauma or anxiety or other things, an oppositional defiant disorder or other things that come along with that. All right, Leslie, I'll come back to that, Leslie. I thank you. I will wait to the end because I want to keep going. Strategies for success for students going to college. Absolutely, absolutely I do. But today I'm focusing more on younger kids, Chris. I will have a future webinar with that. And what? Okay. Somebody else's mic was on, I just muted them. Is there a difference between how girls and boys with ADD or ADHD present? Yeah, Monica, in my experience, although I've seen both, so this is just kind of an overgeneralization, but a lot of the boys I see are more like that Jason, the evil Knieveling over desks. A lot of the girls slip between the cracks. Nowadays with ADHD, there's the hyperactive impulsive type, and then there's the inattentive type, and then there's the combined type. A lot of the girls with the inattentive type, they kind of slip between the cracks. So there is oftentimes a difference from a gender standpoint, although I have seen really hyperactive girls and I've seen boys that have just the inattentive type too. Let me move on to the next slide, okay? I know I'd only scheduled 45 minutes for the webinar. Sometimes with the webinars, I go a little bit over, so I hope you all can stick with me. So here's what you as a parent or a guardian, an educator, a school administrator, a coach, here's what you can do to help. And I recently added this piece here. So before I get to the slide, I want to teach you all about the primary intervention that I recommend you guys use. This intervention is called incidental teaching. And what incidental teaching means is that you teach a skill to the child in the moment when the situation, the feeling, or the behavior comes up. It's a real life, real time, in the moment intervention, which is very different than role playing, which is effective at times, but it's a little more contrived and it's a little more scripted. I like this incidental teaching approach. I'm not going to have time to really get into it today because I want to focus more on the ADHD piece. But with this incidental teaching, if you're implementing it, you don't want to do it all the time because then the kid will take that as you're being critical all the time, and I guess you'll look like this poor kid on the top right on the slide. I think, is my video gone? I lost my video. Oh, there I am. I'm not sure why everyone's video is up on the screen. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I didn't know I was not up there anymore. At least I couldn't see myself, or maybe you guys could see me. But we don't want to do it all the time, or you're going to wind up the kid will be feeling like this with his feelings hurt. Always my recommendation with incidental teaching is you follow my 90-10 rule, where 90% of what comes out of your mouth towards any child, especially your own, focuses on what they're doing right. We've got to catch these kids being good and let them know it and reinforce it. You need the 10%. You need the incidental teaching. You need to jump in and say, hey, you're doing that wrong. We need to improve that. And with incidental teaching, we always want to pick and choose, I call them teachable moments, when the mood is calm. Incidental teaching should not be done when the episode is heated or when people are angry. Here's a quick example of incidental teaching, because I think it'll highlight what I'm talking about. Excuse me, guys. A mom and dad are talking, and in classic ADHD impulsive, I want my needs met right now fashion, a child interrupts their conversation, and the parent says, doesn't yell, doesn't scream, doesn't say be quiet, doesn't say get out, this is a private conversation. The parent says, you're interrupting our conversation. Please wait for a pause and then say, excuse me. That's it. A sweet, simple intervention when everybody's calm. And if you're ever looking for more examples of incidental teaching, on the website, socialskillscenter.com, I actually wrote a book and I filmed a DVD. It's all free. I wrote a book and filmed a DVD to teach other professionals how to facilitate the social skills groups our way, which is called the peer process model. But if you were to go to the website there and hit the DVD, you'll see, I believe there's about 13 different video vignettes of me in action with the group teaching these essential skills and using that incidental teaching approach. Again, it's all free. Feel free to take a look at it. It's a great way to learn that skill of using incidental teaching. Now let me get to the slide. The first two items on this slide are items that almost everybody overlooks with ADHD kids, yet they are 100% essential if you're going to teach these life skills. Number one is we have to demonstrate empathy with them. These are not bad kids. They're not lazy kids. They're not unmotivated. They're not dreamers that are drifting off, and that's not what they're all about. The kids don't choose to have ADHD. It's not a psychological concern, although it does have a psychological impact. It's not a behavioral concern, although again, ADHD has a behavioral impact. ADHD, it's neurobiological. It does affect behavior. It does affect self-esteem. But the cause here is brain structure and brain chemistry. ADHD, as I said earlier, it's rooted in the frontal lobe of the brain and leads to what I said before, executive dysfunction, deficits in planning, issues with problem solving, poor impulse control, unable to pay attention, and so on and so forth. Much like the earlier slide that we went right down. But here's the reality, because I always think real world. While ADHD is neurological or a neurobiological concern, that may explain behavior, but in the real world, that often doesn't fly. So we really have to teach these kids these coping strategies now before they get in the real world, because their first boss is not going to say, oh, well, you have ADHD. Is that why you didn't show up to work because you're alarmed? They're not going to say that. They're not going to say you forgot to hand that report in. Oh, but you have ADHD. I'll let it slide. It doesn't work that way. So that's why it's so important to give these kids these skills. Secondly, and this again, it doesn't happen often, but I'm going to highly encourage you guys to really, really listen to this. We have to an ADHD kid, we have to explain to them why social skills are important. We have to get the child on board with the plan. We want the child to be a willing participant, and we want them to invest in learning these skills, investing their time, investing their energy, and we want them motivated to change. The way to do that is to tell your ADHD kid or your student, let me tell you some experiences that I've had where social skills have really helped me out in life. They've helped me out when I was younger because of an experience I had in a classroom. They've helped me get a promotion at work, or whatever real life experiences you have to get your child on board. We have to share with them the importance of positive interactions with others in life, at home, at school, in the workplace, in your social circle. It's really important to get these kids on board. And ultimately what we want is, sometimes I use some hand symbols here. What often happens far too much with ADHD kids is this: butting heads and power struggles. Parent says, yes, you will. No, I won't. Yes, you will. No, I won't. Yes, you will. And then it just escalates and turns into a blow up in an argument. What we want with ADHD kids is we need joining. And the way you join your ADHD child or your ADHD student is you get on board together. Say, this is why these skills are important. Number 3, as expected, we have to practice. And as you're aware, ADHD kids, they have a harder time learning from their previous experiences. They often react without thinking things through. It's not uncommon for an ADHD child to make the same mistake again and again. And then the parent or the teacher says, you just did this. Didn't you learn from it? And the child says, oh, I don't know, or I don't remember. It happens all the time. And oftentimes they really don't remember. It's not a lie or an excuse to get out of it. And I've long said that I think we should treat social skills with ADHD kids and other kids like an academic class. And what I mean by that is this. I liken learning social skills to learning math. You learn some things, for example, math in a classroom in school. Then you go home with homework to practice that skill. You take your homework, you bring it back, you learn a new skill, and then you have homework the next night as well. And if we take social skills with whatever those specific goals we have, and we educate the child and teach the child, and then really get them to practice like a homework assignment again and again and again, then that's how they'll truly gain those skills. That's why we want to get kids on board, because a kid that's not on board, I'm not doing that. You can't make me do that. Get them on board. Let's practice this. I have a technique that I call positive practice, and I'm going to go back to use the example of the child that interrupted the parents when they were talking, and the parent said, please wait for an appropriate time to jump in and say, excuse me. The positive practice there, using incidental teaching, is to have the child in the moment engage in that response. Excuse me, and then jump in when it's appropriate. So the parents, using positive practice, start talking again. And then when there's a pause, they turn to the child. The child waits for that pause and then, excuse me, can I ask you a question? 5 times. Practice that again and again and again in the moment 5 times. That's how the incidental teaching approach works. And then you have some sort of reinforcement or reward or praise. Hey, we're so proud of you for doing that. Goes a long way with kids. A couple more listening skills. Have you ever drifted off and tuned things out going on around you? I sure have. But with the ADHD kids, it happens much more frequently than it would happen with someone who's neurotypical. And the ADHD kids do it all the time. And oftentimes, unfortunately, parents and teachers just naturally assume that it's the child just blowing them off. But that might not necessarily be the case. Obviously, the tip here with ADHD kids, it's always face-to-face, eye-to-eye contact in a nice way, keeping things simple, sharing what your request is, and then having them paraphrase the request back to you. Typically, only making one request. Multitasking, a multi-stage command is very hard for ADHD kids. So give them one command, one request, have them look you in the eyes and paraphrase that back to you, and then send them off to go do it. Then you'll know that they heard you and understood. It confirms that they heard and understood what you said. And then finally, the settling skills. I'll go back to the example of Jason that I had used earlier. These are the kids at dinner time. They may get up 10 different times. They might not be able to sit in their chair. They may be sitting cross like sideways with their feet up all over. During homework time, they may go to the bathroom and, I need to get a drink of water. Then I need to go to the bathroom. And now you know what I'm talking about. I know many of you live this life. Any task that's boring, that requires sustained mental effort, is a huge challenge for many of these kids. And you're going to find, parents often say, well, my child, and I know someone had commented on the video games, well, but my child can play Minecraft for 6 hours in a row and totally focus on that. But the reality is with ADHD, you're going to see it present most during boring, non-stimulating activities, homework time, possibly dinner time, in a class, like if they don't find, if you're a math teacher, if you don't find math interesting, that's where you're going to see these symptoms come up the most. So the recommendation I have to help with the settling skills is an idea that I borrowed from Dale Carnegie, who wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all the way back in 1936. But sometimes it's the simple techniques that work the best, and this has done wonders for lots of the kids that I see in the practice, both in person and in the online coaching program, and that's simply to get out a clock, a stopwatch. Oh, I don't have my cell phone here, but pull out your cell phone and say at dinner time, hey, let's focus and let's sit just for 5 minutes. Then after that, you can get up, go to the bathroom, do what you need to do. And then what you do the next day is you encourage the child, hey, you made it 5 minutes. Let's go for 5.5 minutes today. And then the reward will be, and then keep doing it that way. I found that kids really jump on to, wow, I can beat my time from the previous day. So really straightforward, solution-focused strategy in order to help kids settle over time. Let me jump over real quick to see if there's any other Q&A questions. At what age, this is Yunlida, at what age can a child be diagnosed with ADHD disorder? Typically psychologists will not diagnose ADHD prior to the age of 7, but again, it all depends on the practitioner. Okay. I think that no other questions are there, so I think we're doing good with that. And then let me jump onto this, guys. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I know we're nearing, we got a question. Begonia, I'm gonna let you in right now, Begonia. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Go for it. You're very welcome. Go for it.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
I went to some conferences and they talked about the vestibular system and how it helps. It's
okay.
Up, like sitting them on those cushion, pointy seats, that it might work with these kids. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, here's my thoughts on that one, and it ties into the question that someone had asked earlier. You know who's great at that are the OTs, the occupational therapists. They have the really good techniques with what to sit on, what to help with their core in order to help to get kids to focus and to pay attention a little bit better. I think that's a great opportunity to go consult with an OT on that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep. And Kimberly, I'm gonna have you jump in right now if you feel okay with it. Kimberly.
Hi, I can't really walk away at the moment because we are in the moment. He's gonna hear that.
Say it one more time.
I'm trying to separate myself from the situation so that I can speak to you.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
But I had put a chat down that my son, we are in a power struggle at this very moment.
Oh no. Let's see if we can help you out.
So he wants chips, and I said he needs to eat healthy food first. So he needs to eat his lunch, and then he can have a treat. And he's refusing to do that.
Okay.
And I said, well, you have choices. You can eat your healthy food and then get your chips and have playtime and TV time. Or you can sit there at the table and not eat and have nothing.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, let me jump in. It's great that we're actually having a live intervention right now, because let me tell you, Kimberly, how I'd handle that. I love the fact that you're offering him simple choices. I also love the fact and appreciate that you're super, super calm. The best way to handle this is to offer kids simple choices. You can choose to do the right thing and then enjoy the rest of your day. Or you can choose to not do the right thing, and this is what the consequence is going to be. I hope you pick plan A. I want you to pick plan A. What can I do to help you? To joining, because we're not butting heads, we're helping. I want you to get that reward by doing the right thing. How can I help you with it? So I like the way that you handled it. I love simple choices with kids.
Yeah, but it's not working.
Okay, well, it might not work this time. But let me tell you, did you offer a reward if he did the right thing?
Right, then you get playtime and TV time and chips.
Okay, and he says, is he there?
He is, and he says, I don't know. Because he doesn't like
okay.
it. And then he says, I don't like choices. Like he doesn't like the choices that he has. So he's
You know what? Hey, at least, at the very least, you're offering him a choice. What most parents would do there, Kimberly, is you do this and you do this now. And that's where you get these power struggles. And that's not the best way, because that's butting heads. If you keep trying it and keep doing it, my belief is over time, he's going to start to make good choices. If the reward is good enough in order for him to make a good choice, like that first time, and you can catch him and hook him in that way, that's the best way to handle it.
okay.
All right. I wish you luck.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I've never had in a webinar an actual live intervention like that. That was interesting. Let's move on with the last slide here. Other tips and techniques to helping ADHD kids in social skills. As you might expect, we always want to maximize social contacts. This is a challenge with social distancing. I think we're 15 weeks into this, so it's really tough to do this right now, and now with recent spikes that we're hearing about, it might be challenging down the road for a period of time as well. But when the pandemic is done, when a vaccine comes out or whatever, when you're setting up a play date with your child, think about the match. Think about coming up with a good play date match. A super calm kid might not be the best match if your child's super, super high energy. Look for common interests. If your kid likes Legos and the potential playdate likes Legos, that might be a good match, or whatever that interest may be. Fishing. One of the kids that participates in my group, he loves fishing, so the mom always sets up playdates for kids that like fishing. Biking, whatever the interest may be. I would recommend limiting electronics. I know that that's hard to do, especially with people being confined here in their homes. It's tough. And again, they create these games to suck these kids in, so it's so hard to get away. And when you have a play date, always remember to end it well. Ending the play date well, even if there was drama, even if there was some sort of shenanigans that happened at the start or in the middle of the play date, if you can end a play date positively, that's always what's on the kids' minds. And then they're always going to be looking forward to reconnecting down the road. Many kids with ADHD, they love physical activities. Sports is a big one, in both individual sports and team sports. I would recommend that I encourage you to think outside the box. It just doesn't have to be the baseballs, basketballs, footballs, or things like that. Some of the non-traditional sports, one of the ADHD kids that participates in one of my social skills groups is big into skateboarding, loves it, keeps him focused, keeps his attention, great way to get the energy out. Some schools are offering Girls on the Run. There are some very active scout troops that are out there that are great for ADHD kids. I have another client I see online that his sport is MMA, the mixed martial arts. He loves getting in there and scrapping with people and sparring and doing competitions and things. And good for him. He really gets so much out of it. Typically, when you're working with the ADHD kids, only focus on one goal at a time. More than one goal, it can be overwhelming for the child. It can be overwhelming for the parent or the teacher or the school psychologist, whoever's implementing the plan. Focus on one goal at a time. Review the goal with that child when it's appropriate. For example, prior to a play date, if the goal is not interrupting, just say, hey, remember, let the other child talk. And when there's a pause, then jump in. Or some of the ADHD kids have a tendency to be overly rough or physical. Remind your child that that's the goal you're working on, and to try to improve on that during the play date. Working closely with school teachers and administrators is very important. I know there's many educators in our crowd and our participants today. Your child, if your child goes to a public school, they're in school probably around 35 hours a week, and almost all of that time is spent with other kids. And as a result, the teachers, the educators, the school counselors, the school psychologists, they can be our eyes and our ears. Such valuable information. And they're always willing to help. They're always willing to give you feedback on this stuff because they want your child to succeed. So at the next parent-teacher conference or 504 meeting or IEP meeting, find out how they're doing academically. But I'm biased. Even more importantly, find out how they're doing on a social standpoint? Are they making friends in the class? Are they keeping the friends over time? Are there conflicts? Always remember recess and lunch. Recess and lunch are the two most important periods of the day when it comes to teaching social skills. That's where social skills are won or lost. Again, with schools, ADHD kids, they're more likely to be bullied. They're also a little bit more likely to be a bully because of the poor impulse control and anger management stuff. So always question of, if there's any sort of bullying or sort of picking on things going on. We always have to preserve kids' self-esteem. And then also lunch bunch. Lots of schools nowadays are offering lunch bunch groups. If you have a child that has ADHD and you're looking to enhance his social skills, inquire about that. See if the school is offering a lunch bunch where they can go once a week and have positive social interactions with their peers. That's what it's all about. Videotaping. This is an interesting one. Again, I kind of like to think outside the box with teaching these essential skills. But being able to videotape your child in a social situation can be very rewarding when appropriate. Right? Stick with me, when appropriate. Be mindful of where you do it. Please don't go when school's in session and go to recess and hide behind a tree with your camera to see how your kids are doing. And then say, oh, Dr. Haley, this guy online told me to do this. Don't do it in a situation like that. You'll come across as creepy or the rest. I don't know what they're going to do. Instead, go to if your child is engaged in a sporting event, baseball, for example, that's a natural and a normal place for parents to videotape their children. So in addition to videotaping your child get up at the bat and getting a hit or catching a pop fly, videotape them in the dugout and catch them with their interactions with their peers. And that's going to help with self-awareness. That's going to help with getting them to see the perspectives of other people. Are they in the dugout cheering for their team? Are they off, playing with ants in the corner and not engaged with the others? Another thing that the ADHD kids struggle with, where I always encourage videotaping, eating habits. Eating habits, because oftentimes ADHD kids will go into a cafeteria and they'll eat and they'll nom and food everywhere. They're just not aware of the impact that has on others. Videotape that. And when your child's calm, sit them down and show them what they look like. They'll gain self-awareness that way, and that hopefully will motivate them, get them on board with the plan, join. Hopefully that'll motivate them to work on those eating habits. And let me end this with medication. It would be remiss of me to not address meds when it comes to ADHD because it is neurobiological. And when parents ask me about medicines, here's what I say. Again, I have 4 kids, and so I'll reference my kids. And I'll say this. With my kids, if my kids had ADHD, mild to moderate, where the ADHD did not impact them severely academically, if they were able to make friends and keep friends over time, then I probably would not consider a medicine for my child. However, if one of my kids had moderate to severe ADHD, where it hurt them academically, where they were unable to focus in a classroom or could not tolerate coming home and getting their homework done, or even more importantly, if it impacted them socially, then I wouldn't say do it, then I'd consider it. Then I would go to a board certified child psychiatrist and get their opinion on medicine to see if it would help. I'm the type of psychologist, I don't push medicines. People come and they see me and they pay to get my 2 cents in my opinion, which I'll always provide. But I tell parents this all the time. No one tells me what to do with my kids. I'm certainly not going to tell you what to do with yours. I'll give you my opinion. If it's a mild to moderate ADHD, I probably wouldn't consider it. I'd work on more of the strategies that we provide at the Social Skills Center. Moderate to severe, then the intervention might need to be a combination of the strategies we provide, plus a medicine to assist. I've again, practicing 27 years, I've seen many kids do very well on medicines. Kind of seen the exact opposite of that too. So my opinion on medicines. And in conclusion, I want to say this. I really enjoyed writing this webinar and getting it ready to present to you today, because I have a real special place in my heart for these ADHD kids. They're super creative. They're passionate, really passionate, a lot of them, about their interests. And being a more high energy person myself, I really connect with their energy. I enjoy it. To me, it's infectious. So lots of times they'll put a smile on my face. Not always. Not always. Sometimes they're challenging too. I know what you're thinking. But to help navigate the social world, we need to address these specific barriers that prevent them from connecting with their peers. And I think if there's just one message that I want you to take away from today, it's the importance of having the skill set to be able to connect with others in life. It's the social skills, being able to connect with others and maintain those connections. And although ADHD brings challenges to social relationships, you yourself, you can make a difference in these kids' lives. So whether you're a parent or whether you're a step-parent, a grandparent, if you're a teacher or a school administrator or a coach, a scout leader, maybe you lead a youth group at your place of worship, whatever your role is, and your position may be, let's all work together to help these kids out. And please start by following the recommendations I provided today. I feel very confident that many of them will be helpful for you and the child or the children that you're working with. It's a great way to foster the essential life skills. If after practicing these things that we spoke about, if more is needed, if you're seeking professional help, it's readily available. That's exactly what we do here at the Social Skills Center. And as I said before, I've been working with the ADHD kids now for 27 years, teaching social skills. And now with the advent and the addition of our online program, which I'm so proud of, the online program is really ideal for kids like this because we can focus on the individual coaching if needed, plus, if needed, add one of the child to one of our many different social skills groups. And with our groups, as I always say, we match by age. We always have same age, same level of functioning. Both those criteria are needed for a social skills group in order for it to be effective. All the strategies we provide at Social Skills are solution-focused, goal-oriented strategies. We want you to be able to implement these strategies immediately. And I'll tell you guys, we're in the business of teaching skills. That's what we do here at the Social Skills Center. We have new groups that are always forming. As you can see on the final slide, if you want to learn more about us, the website is socialskillscenter.com. I know most of you learned about us on Facebook, so please go to our Facebook page, the Social Skills Center, and like it. I would appreciate it. We've also started a Facebook group listed down on the bottom right, Social Skills Circle. I would also appreciate it if you would join us and support us there. Everyone that's here today is welcome to join. Any questions? My email's there, drhaley@socialskillscenter.com. And a couple other pieces of information about what's happening down the road. Next Thursday at 11 a.m., exactly a week from today, my associate Scott Miller and I are going to be facilitating a free Q&A on this very topic that we talked about today. So the topic is going to be ADHD kids and how to enhance their social skills. We're going to do this in a very small group format. And if you want to participate next Thursday at 11 a.m., please only sign up if you're really going to participate. The last couple of times we've done this, some of the people that signed up didn't, and that kind of took away from other people that I had to say, no, we don't have space for you. So if you think you're going to be able to attend next Thursday at 11 a.m., a free Q&A, all you have to do after the webinar today, just send me an email that you want to participate. And later today, when I get a break, I'll send you the link. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And finally, 2 weeks from now at 1 p.m., I'll be hosting another webinar. I don't have a topic yet. Topics, I'm always looking for recommendations. If you have an interest in social skills and whatever, please let me know. And either in the webinar coming up in 2 weeks or in a future one, I'd be more than happy to have that as a webinar. Let me just go to the questions. Amy's asking, hi Amy. Oh, someone anonymous said, does ADHD cause social awkwardness? And it absolutely can. It absolutely can, because again, it's hard for you to pick up on the social cues, and because it's hard from a modeling standpoint to learn from other people. Amy said, how often is it just ADHD and multiple diagnoses? It seems like there's a lot of overlap with anxiety. OCD, yeah, we call this the comorbidity. ADHD, you're going to see a whole lot of the ODD, the oppositional defiant disorder, and just like you say, anxiety, OCD. Often ADHD, there's not just ADHD, that there's other diagnoses that come along with that. This is some advice for Kimberly. Kimberly, if you're still with us, somebody recommended, can you make your choices more concrete? Use a timer. So this is a great advice. If you eat healthy food for 5 minutes, you can have a chip. Yeah, and she says, I know my son couldn't understand abstract. That's a really good point. Kimberly, I hope you heard that. Chris said, I had good luck with outdoor water fun and swim lessons. This goes along with things that from a physical standpoint. So thank you for sharing that. What do you do to build social skills in an inattentive, introverted preteen ADHD boy social skills group? For those that are more introverted, Jay, I found that the social skills groups and coming in and feeling acceptance and appreciation and validation from peers totally boosts up social confidence and makes kids more assertive. Sue, thank you for your kind words. Jamie said, tried contacting multiple times. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, college success webinar. Absolutely. I'm going to put that on the list. Thank you, Chris. Jamie's asking about a certificate of completion. We have a certificate of attendance that Jennifer will be sending out in a few hours from now, later this afternoon. Do you prefer, from Sri Lakshmi, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, do you prefer medication or diet? I've seen great benefits with both. So it really all depends on the situation and the child's response. My son's always singing rhymes from videos like Scream. Okay. Maybe on a webinar, ADHD and anxiety. Yep, I've actually done many talks in the community, Monica, on that. So I'd be more than happy to do that. And autism and ADHD, Nydia, definitely we see many kids on the spectrum at the Social Skills Center. So I'll guarantee you either in 2 weeks or maybe the one that's coming up in 4 weeks, there will be an autism and an Asperger's focus. All right. I know so many people stuck with us. I know we went an hour. I think maybe next time I'll just schedule it for an hour. That might be better. As always, I really appreciate your attendance. I appreciate your feedback. I thank you so much for joining us. And again, if you want to join us next week for the free Q&A, that's 11 a.m. Eastern time, that will be focused on social skills and ADHD, please send me an email as soon as possible. Thank you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you again.